Namaste and welcome to the Federal. In our continuing coverage of for COVID-19 Corona virus series, today we are joined by Prof Venkatesh Balasubramanian, VB of IIT Madras. Venkatesh Balasubramanian, and we would be discussing about things like human factors engineering, things like biomedical devices, how much are we prepared. Of course, since he's somebody who's also an advisor to the National Health Mission, we're going to ask him also things related to the National Health Mission, and we hope to be having a very good discussion. Professor VB, yeah, welcome to our show, Professor Venkatesh Balasubramanian. So first of all, I think as professor in engineering design and as someone being in human factors engineering, and I'm personally aware that especially in biomedical devices, how do you think we are prepared as a country for this particular pandemic in terms of our equipments? And part two of that question will be, how quickly can we ramp up our manufacturing by adopting practices like lean engineering and things like that, so that if at all there's a big necessity, we could quickly be able to ramp to scale to produce these devices.
Thanks, Venkat, for having me over. A minor correction in the introduction part. I'm a faculty at IIT Madras. I used to be advisor to NHM, not at this point of time, and I can't speak on behalf of NHM and what NHM is doing or the Tamil Nadu government at present is doing. I'm as knowledgeable as all of you sitting from outside.
Fair enough.
Uh, so the question, the mute question the moot question that you did ask about can we scale up our manufacturing for medical devices? All manufacturing companies are geared for a particular purpose, right? So an automotive manufacturer is not going to necessarily become a medical device manufacturer just by a flip of a coin or by saying that I'm going to be a medical device manufacturer. Like in automotive manufacturing, there are variety of IPs and the process quality and other things that have to be incorporated, and then you need to get into it. So Mr. Anand Mahindra said Mahindra will get into manufacturing of respiratory devices, ventilators, and other things using all their available resources. So that's like committing a huge amount of R&D workspace as well as manufacturing workspace to go about doing it. So when big companies are able to move away from the automotive manufacturing to medical device manufacturing, as a medical device person, I like them to get in. As a general public, we are going to have a crisis at some point of time when a large number of people are going to run to hospitals. We have seen it across the world that there is going to be a scarce amount of resources. When that resource crunch does happen, when there is a large amount of manufacturers who are pitching in, either as a whole component, which is basically an entire product, or subcomponents that can be manufactured to scale and then assembled across. So there could be variety of things that are done. So the government also needs to step in to ensure that designs are picked, IPs are opened up. There's a huge amount of issues that are there. So the most talked about is the ventilator because there's a big ticket item.
Yeah.
The fad on the ventilator will be that you have a bunch of different stuff that are there. It's not a simple stuff.
Yeah, I was
There
just
are
coming to that. This whole about ventilators.
I'm not able to hear. Venkat, I'm not able to hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, please go on, Professor VB. I'm sorry, there's a lag.
I didn't
My
hear the question.
point was about these ventilators and also these low low cost ventilators which they are talking about in the Indian context.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your question. I think it
There's a
was
lag
about low
now,
cost.
you'll get it now.
The low cost ventilators. I'm not sure what you meant by that. Ventilators are ventilators. UK had actually jumped in and said, what should be the specification of ventilators that are made available? What should be the design criteria for the ventilators? I'm assuming that the national.
Ventilators, about
Hmm?
ventilators particularly.
I'm sorry.
Please go on, Vivi. It's about ventilators. Please go on. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I wanted you to talk
I
about
I I I I mi- I missed your
ventilators.
question. Yeah,
Yeah,
I missed your question, but I think I'll probably say what I personally would like is, we have Good Samaritan manufacturers. So I work with a large amount of these manufacturing companies, not Mahindra Group, but other manufacturing companies which are there. The manufacturing capability in the country is very good. Their ability to go from what used to be an ability from a drawing to manufacturing, as they call as the production, to a whole cycle of manufacturing over the last few years has increased significantly. So the capability or the systemic capability is there. If the need is articulated correctly, if the design criterias are spelt out right, and the conditions that are need to be met are spelt out right, manufacturing industry will be more than uh, capable to meet the requirements in the country. Only problem is the scaling up time that will be required for these companies to scale up. If they decide to start procuring a design, then getting the dies in place and getting them into in a working model, that will be a challenge, as they say. Our ability to improvise is infinite. So I am very hopeful that our manufacturing companies will deliver. It's just that this delivery will have to be adequately backed up, supported, and given a direction by the experts who are going to be the users. So the user will have to drive the part of the manufacturers going to cater. The regulatory body should be in a position to give uh, adequate amount of directions, as well as opening up of IPs if required, and we can do. I mean, maybe the hardware could be manufactured, the IP in the
yeah.
softwares could be retained, or components and the pneumatic components could be manufactured. So these are going to be tier one manufacturers, not the original equipment manufacturers, but tier one, tier two manufacturers. Huge amount of capability is there, and as long as we can get enough warm bodies inside to do the manufacturing in place, which manufacturing is not production. Manufacturing is from design to quality control to other things that are there. We should be in position, we should be in a way to get there uh, in time. I mean, I'm not sure about the time part. That is the part that has to be managed by the regulators, the manufacturers, and other people. As a general public, I would like them to do it, ramp it up, and get to scale as soon as possible. Can you text his question? Mm.
the place on this. What are your views on these kind of software-driven models for infectious diseases?
Dr. Ramanan had talked about. Uh, I mean, mm,
Sure, I'll just text you this question.
please
The
text me the
question is on
question.
uh,
Uh, the infectious disease models that are created
yeah, just texted
for
you.
so any infectious disease, any model or any simulation. Venkat, you can hear me? So your question was on the infectious disease models that are made. Any infectious disease model is a very good thing. In silico models are a very good way to have a good understanding of things that or visualize things that we have not seen yet. What is not seen can be visualized well, so that policy could be framed accordingly. But the problem in many of these these models that are made is what are the um, like you're a chemical engineer too, so you will recognize the issues with any in silico models that are there. What are the baseline that we use, and how we are going to model a particular thing. And the problem in real life is there is a huge behavioral modification and other things that are local in nature, and certain things that are brought about which are both by the public as well as by the broader concept of the administration and other things that are there. These various factors have a damping or an act, or a boosting uh, effect on the perturbations or the models that are being put in place. Now, the complexity of the model and how accurate it captures, basically, the fidelity of the model makes a very good thing. Whether it's a in silico finite element model that we make for crash analysis or accident models that we make, all of them come with a certain amount of assumptions that are made on how the models are created. And those assumptions are other perturbations that are going to be there. They are going to have a, sorry, the perturbations and the assumptions that are there are going to be uh, very big play into the whole scheme of things. So from that perspective, any model that is being presented, I will always take it with a proverbial salt, which may go from a pinch of salt to a mountain of salt, because the behavioral modeling at best is very weak. You know, 1 week ago, if you said people recognize the power of flu, hardly any. Today, when you go talk about somebody with what is flu, what is a contagion, and what it is to keep the cleanliness, they'll be huge. A week ago, you went and said that two people should not drink from the same glass. They would say you are Paraya Panjangam, right? You are a old kind of a thing. Today, personal hygiene has taken a huge this thing. So there's a huge mindset change that has happened. That mindset change will have a physical change in how things are. Now, does the model accurately or has a fidelity to capture this mindset change that has a physical change that come about? Is the question that is there. So I personally don't have any models. If there is an India specific model that is fidelity, that's very high fidelity, and that model also has input variables or operating characteristics that could be modified based on all these behavioral changes or other changes that are going to be there, then that's a great model to look at. Otherwise, it is just as good as a spin of the coin. I mean, anybody can look at a bunch of uh, checks and boxes in a piece of paper and tell you this is going to be there. And that is a model that is created because that drives on certain hypothesis. And this also is a model that is written, and that also drives on certain hypothesis, certain calculations. So, as a person who is not aware of a particular model and its fidelity, I will not be in a position to comment about any particular model and their conclusions of how the scenario is going to play out. I mean, it could very well be correct, it could be way off the mark. My only thing is take it with a proverbial uh, salt. It could be a pinch of salt or a mountain or a heap of salt that you would, an entire uppalam could be used for taking that. I think you may want to text me your question and I can talk because I'm not able to hear your question.